Hi, this tutorial is brought to you by pm-prep35.com. We are online PMP training website. Do visit our website pm-prep35.com to find a lot of free resources for PMP exam preparation. In this session, I'm going to cover the first chapter in PMBOK. PMBOK stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. This body of knowledge is charted down by PMI, Project Management Institute, and based on which you have the PMP Project Management Professional certification. So in this first chapter I'm going to cover some of the basic concepts related to PMBOK. So this is based on the chapter 1 in PMBOK 5th edition. So PMBOK stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge, and it has some terminologies and concepts. Basically the concept of a body of knowledge for project management came into picture basically because project management as such has been a very vital profession, so there has been a need for a common terminology amongst the project managers similar to what is available in other professions like doctor, engineers and all that. So that's where the project management body of knowledge probably came into picture. This has, as you go on into further chapters, you will find out that there are lot of terminologies like knowledge area, processes, process groups, and how this body of knowledge is split up into processes, and the process in turn fits into knowledge area and process groups. Let's look at it in the further chapters, but at this point let's take one step at a time and look at what is covered in introduction of project management body of knowledge. Okay, let's get going now. The project management body of knowledge as such, just having some time getting started up with this presentation. Okay, here we go. The purpose of the PMBOK guide. So the guide, the PMBOK has a guide understandably, and this slide covers what is PMBOK. Okay, what is it for? Okay, so the PMBOK guide identifies that subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. So we need to be very careful with each and every word in this particular sentence and how it is formed or framed as a sentence. The PMBOK guide identifies that subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. The exam normally has questions on these terms like good practice, generally recognized, identifies, subset. The questions can revolve around these things in the exam. So if you see, this is a sort of a a broad statement which says the PMBOK guide just identifies that subset. It's a subset that it identifies. The knowledge is a subset, although there might be a wide range of knowledge available. It only identifies a subset of the knowledge which is generally recognized as good practice. So here it also indirectly tells that it's the discretion of the person who is applying this knowledge that is more relevant to use the correct subset of the project management body of knowledge. So now good practice here means the general application of the skills, tools and techniques can enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects. The general application of because the PMBOK as such is handled in terms of tools, techniques, inputs and outputs. It is a process that we are having in the PMBOK. each of the knowledge area, and there are, if you take as we go down further, we will find a lot of processes. A process as such, from a layman's point of view, is anything that takes an input, uses a tools, techniques, and process it. It transforms that input to an output. So this is the style. This is the broader overview of a process. So the PMBOK treats everything as a process. Okay, so good practice means the general application of skills, tools, and techniques can enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects. It can enhance, it just can enhance, but it's up to the person who is applying it to really enhance or know how to enhance based on the scenario on hand. So these are good practices which have been evaluated by a lot of managers, and then this body of knowledge has been created, and also they have been sort of certified, have been proven to increase the chances of success over a wide range of projects. So that's why the PMBOK came into picture. It's out of a lot of experience from a lot of managers that the PMBOK has been built. But it doesn't mean that you just straightly apply all the processes or everything stated in the PMBOK and you can expect success. You need to use your own discretion to see how it would fit to your requirement on hand and then apply it. That's what this states indirectly. So the good practice, these are all good practices, but then it's up to your capability to know what is there in your hands and then apply it. So generally recognized, again, these are all very these terminologies are overlapping in terms of meaning, but then they have minute differences. So we are trying to put this clearly out here in terms of what is generally recognized, what is good practice. While good practice is more relevant to enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects, but not necessarily on all projects. Wide range of projects, that's where the boundary is. Generally recognized means the knowledge and practices described are applicable to most projects most of the time, and there is consensus about their value and usefulness. Consensus, as I said, based on a lot of managers have used this successfully in a wide range of projects. Generally recognized means the generally recognized means the knowledge and practices described are applicable to most projects most of the time. It's not all projects all of the time, but most projects most of the times, and there is consensus about their value and usefulness. So lot of managers have agreed that this is the subset of body of knowledge that's required to be applied successfully to many projects. Okay, so that's about good practice and generally recognized. Generally recognized goes with applicable to most projects most of the times. Good practice is about chances of success over a wide range of projects. Okay. Project Management Institute Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. So there are some code of ethics and professional conduct that's specified in the Project Management Institute and in the body of knowledge. These are all ethics that you normally follow generally to be rightful and all that. So you try to look at things like in a rightful direction or what is right, and you perform your duties. So some of them are practitioners must comply with laws, regulations, and policies. So they should also always abide by laws, country laws, regulations, and the policies. That's really important. Practitioners should be committed to honest and respectful dealings with stakeholders. They should be fair with the stakeholders. They should see what is good to them and do things. Practitioners must demonstrate a commitment to professional conduct. While they take care of the country's laws and all that, they should also be committed to their professional conduct. They should be loyal to their work, their company, and that's where the loyalty to the country also comes into picture. So or where they are performing their job comes into picture. Practitioners, so these are three main points that gets covered in the code of ethics: compliance to law, commitment to honest and respectful dealings with stakeholders, which means you might deal with people from different countries, different backgrounds. You should try to be um, um, as fair to everyone as possible. Practitioners must demonstrate a commitment to professional conduct, so they should be really fair and committed to their profession as such, so not encouraging bribes or not going out of the way or do personal favors when they are on the job. um, so let's get into what is a project, because this is the most important terminology. What is a project? According to PMBOK, the project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Believe me, this is one important statement, and lot of questions get covered in this area of what is a project. There may be 2 or 3 questions which revolve around these terminologies within this definition of what is a project. So project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service, or result. So temporary here means the project has a definite beginning and ending, which means that it doesn't mean that the temporary word means the project is short, or it doesn't mean anything like temporary means short. It means that the project has a definite beginning and ending dates. There's a definite begin and end dates. That's where the temporary comes into picture. To create a unique product, service, or result. So you're trying to create a unique product, service, or result. So although the features of 2 products that have come out of a project, 2 different projects might be same, but the time frame when they were created or the team that was involved in can be totally different. Mainly the time frame. If there are 2 projects that are running at the same point of time, which is creating the same product, imagine something like that, which is sort of why do you do that is out of question at this point. But then if you're doing that, then the teams probably involved or the combination as such can be different in some one way or the other. So that's where the unique word gets its meaning. Unique product, service, or result. So the outcome of a project can be a product which is tangible, you can see it. It can be a service. The service can be anything like something that connects a society in terms of a transportation facility. A result can be a research finding, or which is not tangible, but then somebody has found out and published a finding which says so and so, this A becomes B if you do this, something like that, which is a research finding. So it is not tangible, but then it's a result published by someone, and it might be useful for further analysis or to build something from there. So according to the PMBOK, a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Any of these 3: tangible product, a service, or a result. Temporary here means definite beginning and ending. Unique means the context or every outcome is unique or distinct compared to something which has already been done, which has the same features, but then the time frame or the team involved, the people who are going to use it can be totally different, that combination. So that's about a project. And then the end of a project is considered to be reached when project's objectives have been achieved. There are 3 things here. The end of a project is considered to be reached when project's objectives have been achieved. Okay, the project is successful. Project's objectives cannot be met. You start off on a project and down the way the client feels or the team feels that the objectives cannot be met. So this is also an example of end of a project can be achieved. So it doesn't mean that this is not a project, but then it's just that the end cannot be met. Okay, need for the project no longer exists. Okay, so you might start off on something, you might be successful at it, then the end is successful, then there might be sometimes when something becomes totally irrelevant, so the need does not exist for the project. So that's where the end is, end of the project it is reached, and then project objectives cannot be met due to some reason or the other. So these are three things which say the end of project is considered to be reached. Okay, projects can have social, economic and environmental impacts that far outlast the projects themselves. So the project can have an impact on social or economic and environmental factors. Like these are three factors: socio-economic and environmental factors that the project can have an impact on. So examples of social factors can be building a bridge connecting two cities, or you build a transport system. Economic, something which can make things good for the economics, or it can improve your economic level. So that is the impact. So projects are undertaken to make things better in most of the context. So environmental impacts can be like you are trying to regulate the pollution level, so something like that can also be taken up as a project. So a project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service or result. So that's about the main definition about the project. So here what you have to map is temporary means definite beginning and ending, and project, the end result is as such unique for the project. Presence of repetitive elements does not change the fundamental uniqueness of the project work. Although the output might be similar, the set of people involved, time frame or location might be different, so the end result is considered unique. So this is what we were talking about, uniqueness. So although there might be repetitive elements, there might be the same team that's involved, there might be the time frame might be same for two projects, but then the combination, or there may be something unique about the whole thing. So that's where the project as such, or the end result is unique. But even if there are some repetitive elements, the same team getting involved does not alter the uniqueness of the project work. So that indirectly means that something at least would be changing. Although there might be repetitive elements in the form of same team or same components being used, it doesn't change the uniqueness of the product or the project work as such. A project can involve a single person, a single organizational unit, or multiple organizational units. So that means it doesn't need that there should be a big team involved in building a project. There can be a single person involved in building a project. I can build my own website, even that is called a project, and there can be a business unit involved, which again can be called as a project, or multiple business units or organizational units involved in involved in building a project. So there is one more thing which is constantly important in the exam, which is the difference between an operation and a project. There is a life cycle for both the project and the operation. Basically, something is set to become operational once the product becomes usable or goes to production. So that's where the difference between project and operation comes into picture. An operation is usually a repetitive process. Okay, note that project has repetitive elements within it, but operation is a repetitive process. Okay, the process as such is repetitive. And again, note that the PMBOK covers only the project. It's a project management body of knowledge. It's not about the operational body of knowledge. So it is stated in the PMBOK that this covers only the project management body of knowledge, but the operation is ongoing and repetitive, and the project is a unique endeavor, temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service, or result. The outcome of the project gets into the operational mode, which is a repetitive process. Okay, an operation is an ongoing work effort. An example is a soap manufacturing unit does a daily turnaround of 5,000 soaps, and the concerned process is repetitive as such, but it actually is operational due to a project that put the process or plant in place. Projects taper over to operations and product life cycle. Yeah, here when you say, although the soap manufacturing unit creates a soap, this is not in this context the product. Even if you look at it, this is a product of the operation, but the plant which was created to be operational is a service that was put forth by the project. That's what is being conveyed here. So a soap manufacturing unit does a daily turnaround of 5,000 soaps, daily 5,000, which is following a constant, ongoing, repetitive process. And the concerned process is repetitive, but it actually is operational due to a project that put the process or plant in place. So in this case, we are not talking about the product, which is a soap of the operation, but then the service which was created by a project. Okay, so that's where you need to clearly be able to distinguish between an operation and a project. Both can create products, but then how it creates, whether it is a process that creates it, which is a repetitive process that creates it, or something unique that's done for a particular organization with a team to meet its business needs, is what is the context. So we need to be very clear when we go to the exam, because there are questions which revolve around to find out whether this is an operation or a project. So they give an example and they ask you to spot out whether this is an example of an operation or a project. So another important terminology is few of the terminologies: portfolios, programs, and projects. Portfolio is at the highest level. So if you look at it, the higher level is at the portfolio. You call the senior level management deals with portfolio. Then you have program under the portfolio. Then you have project. The project is at the lowest level, but you don't call low, you call it first level. Okay, so that's a better terminology to use. So strategies get specified in the portfolio level. Then you have tactical solutions specified in the program level. Then you have projects which implement those solutions or what program wants. So there is some amount of grouping that's involved in each of these levels. A project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service, or result. Multiple projects and their interdependencies get grouped into a program. So that means when you're talking about a program, you have mostly related projects and their interdependencies. So which doesn't fall in the boundary of a specific project becomes an interdependency between two projects. It gets included in a program. So now portfolio can have interrelated programs, but something that's grouped within a portfolio is done mainly for better management. So some of the common ways where you can put things together in a portfolio can be based on technology, based on seller, based on client. So it's more like easy level of management out there. Totally unrelated things, totally unrelated programs, or totally unrelated projects can be put in a portfolio. It's more related to seeing revenue and things like that at the portfolio level, but on the program level it's more closer to having linked projects within. So this is the clear distinction between portfolio, program, and projects. So as you go above this hierarchy at a portfolio level, you can have things totally unrelated to one another, and you're grouping them mainly because to look at revenue, how you're doing client to client, for better manageability. If your company does not have related projects done for a particular client, then you put everything together and assign a portfolio manager for that. At that level, this portfolio manager is not really concerned about what is being done on each of the projects in terms of technical details, but then he's more concerned about how we are performing for that particular client, how we can improve the satisfaction for that particular client. So that's where the portfolio comes into picture. Portfolios are at the senior management level, programs are at middle management level, and projects are at first level management. Portfolio is more related to strategy, program is more related to tactical solutions, project is more related to operational aspects. So when you create a product or a service, it becomes operational. So that's where the project come into picture. Organizational planning impacts the projects by means of project prioritization based on risk, funding, and the organization's strategic plan. So when you're planning certain things that will have an impact on the project in terms of funding, priority, and all that, so that's why you can see some of the projects shelved for time being, or a pipeline coming into picture telling this project is planned for next year, this project is planned next month, and things like that. So organizational planning or funding, they play a main part in deciding which project would go first, which project will be next, and things like those, like priorities. So that's about portfolio, program, and projects. And again, a portfolio refers to a collection of projects or programs and other work that are grouped together to facilitate effective management of that work to meet strategic objectives. So at the portfolio level, as we discussed, it's more towards financial aspects, or how to improve client satisfaction, how to bring more money into the company. So that's at the portfolio level. Group of interrelated projects become part of program. Yeah, here interrelationship between the projects is really important in terms of program. It's not the same case for portfolio. If it is that way, it is good, but then it doesn't necessarily mean that portfolio always has interrelated projects and programs. But at the program level, it's correct. You have interrelated projects, and that interrelated work also falls within a program. Group of programs or projects become part of portfolio, and the projects or programs within the portfolio need not be interrelated. They are just grouped for effective management. This is for the portfolio management. So portfolios are aimed at maximizing return on investment. So you're more concerned about bringing more money, how to effectively handle a client. So client relationship, all this are really important things at the portfolio level. Revenue, client management, client satisfaction, that's what you deal with as a portfolio manager. Common technologies, seller and client are some of the criteria to group a project, especially under a portfolio. Program managers focus on optimizing project interdependencies, and the actions related to these interdependencies may include: program managers concentrate on projects and their interdependencies, and these interdependencies may include resolving resource constraints affecting multiple projects within the system. So a program manager is more concerned with, I might have about 10 resources. The 10 resources might be involved or assigned to, say for example, 3 to 4 projects, and one particular project doesn't have much work. Then I am responsible to ensure that the resources are well used, or they are properly juggled between projects. So that's the role of a program manager, to optimize resources so that he can transfer one resource from one project to another to effectively use them. The next one the program manager normally deals with is aligning organizational strategic direction that affects project and program goals and objectives. So he's a link between the strategy and the project, and he has to ensure that the strategy is kept in mind while he handles the program or the project. So he has to drive the strategy to the first level, or the project managers. Resolving, then the next point is resolving issues and change management within a shared governance structure. Whatever projects fall under him, he is responsible for training those managers and also to be a model program to all other programs within the organizations in terms of forming process, governance structure, uh, building a PMO which can handle or help different project managers, and this can be simulated across different programs within the organization. He has to have governance structures for how to handle changes, because how you handle changes is where your real experience comes out as a manager. So he has to have governance structure and to effectively handle changes. So these are all some of the important roles of a program manager. Projects are authorized as a result of business need, technological advance, strategic opportunity, legal requirement, customer request, environmental consideration, market demand. So when you say business need, there is a this market is there is, so these are different categories wherein a project might come into picture. Okay, a market demand might be anything like there is a requirement you see in the market that there are a lot of people waiting for something, and you spot out that, and you build something and open it to the open market. A technological advance can be anything like you have been in the industry, you are releasing products every now and then, basically because you think that people who are using it should have better features. Legal requirement can be anything related to the government saying if you have so and so product, it should be having so and so compliance so that it doesn't affect the society or something like that. So these are some of the categories or reasons why a project can be authorized or project comes into picture. um, the portfolio project there's then there is the project falling into programs, the program falling into portfolios. These are some of I mean, this is the hierarchy between project, portfolio, and program. Um, then the most important concept is project management office. Project management office is responsible for training managers, and it's something like a group of senior management getting together to have their templates, or formalizing templates for um, different documents. They think of it as a one place where they are grouping together and deciding on best practice. They are approving some of the project requirements or rejecting based on or weighing different options. They probably meet once in a week or something like that, or whenever required, to decide these things. So project management office ideally is a space allocated in the organization where um, managers have their artifacts, or they get together. These days, project management office has taken a smaller role in terms of lot more. The people who are part of project management office are assistants to actual managers, because it's more related to maintaining templates and things like that. The project management office is a management structure that standardizes the project related governance process and facilitates the sharing of resources, methodologies, tools and technique, best practices. So that's the role of project management office. um, when there is a new manager coming into the organization, instead of he going blank thinking what to do, he wants to create a project charter or a project management plan. He can directly contact the project management office to get in touch with other managers in the organization, to introduce himself, to become part of this particular group, so that he can get help both in terms of project management as well as the organization process. And it gives him some sort of hand holding. So that's where the project management office comes into picture. The PMO is a senior management group, usually taking the role of change control board. Yeah, PMO, although in current days it has been reduced a bit, the role of PMO is, the idea of PMO is to have a group of senior managers who can play a better role in weighing in different options and coming out with the best decision. That's about project management office, and there are different types of PMO. One is supportive, two is controlling, three is directive. Okay, these are three types of PMO: supportive, controlling, and directive. Supportive is just a support function, not a decision maker. So this is what will happen when you have a junior level resource acting as a PMO. He's more supportive. He can't make decisions. He just works closely with the senior managers. So that's where the PMO can be a supportive function. Controlling. Then the second type is controlling. Medium level of power, usually a set of project managers. So these are not the senior managers, but a set of project managers. They are controlling. This is called as controlling type PMO. They have medium level of power. They can help each other. So that's where it's called controlling. Then the third is directive, highly powerful, wherein the senior management itself takes the role of PMO. This is normally the case in a smaller organization wherein the PMO has to be set up. So it's mostly directive in the initial stages, then it slowly becomes controlling, and then it becomes supportive in a bigger organization where you can find multiple PMOs for each of the account or the customer. Supportive PMO plays a consultative role to projects by supplying templates, best practices, training, access to information, and lessons learned from other projects. So that's the role of supportive PMO. Controlling PMO requires compliance to frameworks, methodologies, and is a collaborative effort among managers to build a PMO capability within the organization. So there are already process stated, and these managers just help each other and build the capability to a better level. So this is more like a process it's already been laid out. They're trying to get it to the next level in terms of coming up with best practices, excelling the existing process. The directive PMO issues project charter and access change control board to approve or reject changes. This is mostly a group of senior managers in case of directive PMO. So three types of PMO: one is supportive, another is controlling, then the third one is directive. Directive is the highest level of authority, controlling medium level of authority, supportive is a lower level of authority. What is project management? Project management is an application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. So this is the PMBOK definition of project management. So in the PMBOK 5th edition, you have 47 processes spanning 10 knowledge areas and 5 process groups. The previous version, which is the 4th edition, had 9 knowledge areas and somewhere around around 40 or 50, I'm not sure, but then there were 9 knowledge areas. But the process groups have been the same. The knowledge area that has been included in the 5th edition is project stakeholder management. Okay, so that's about the project management body of knowledge. So the process groups are initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. So we will go into a length about each of these in the next video. Thank you.